Welcome back to Cyberfusion Distribution video podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by one of our latest signing, one of our innovative vendors, Marco. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Blockapt. Tell me a little bit about the company, your role within the company, and you're relatively new to us, but tell me about the history of the company and what it is you do.
Yeah, no, thanks, Steve. I'm delighted to be here. So background is very much 20 years plus in the space. Worked as an engineer, as a consultant, also as a solution architect. It's really at the back of that hands-on experience, working for enterprise, for governments, where the idea of the Blockapt platform came into be. Essentially, Blockapt is Block APT, Block Advanced Persistent Threat. And the work that I've been doing as a consultant, troubleshooting, advising clients, then realizing that actually they have a lot of the fantastic tools. I'm talking EDR, I'm talking intrusion detection systems, MDR, you name it. But these tools, these vendors, these technologies were not really working well together. And that's essentially where the Blockapt platform came into be, building a system that allows you to essentially bring together all of those ecosystem for management, for monitoring, more importantly, for automation. So the company's been going for about 5 years now.
Okay.
We've been able to tune the technology, tune the product, but now obviously we're now ready to commercialize it and take it to the next stage. Hence, obviously, we're having conversation with Cyberfusion.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And one thing that was very interesting, in my years in the industry, I've heard the single pane of glass so much, and yet no one has ever delivered. And a lot of people say it's not possible, but you guys are there delivering single pane of glass. So tell me about that capability.
I think cybersecurity is very well known for where marketing is usually quite a few years ahead of technology in that sense. Yes, single pane of glass is not a new term. However, if you look back 5 years in terms of where APIs are today, because of the Gartner is pushing the cyber mesh type of architecture. So a lot of vendors are opening up these APIs. Therefore, really in the past 4 to 5 years, there's been a lot of maturity in terms of API. So hence now the ability to integrate, to connect those ecosystems has become a lot more easier. Whereby 5 years ago, yes, it was a lot of marketing, but in terms of being able to deliver truly single pane of glass, that was a lot challenging. So we've been working on that for the past 4 years. My own background, starting really to build these integrations, started almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
But now we can really deliver because of the technology, because of the flexibility of integration, the ability to bring these tools. So when we talk about single pane of glass, it is really central system that allows you to command and control that entire ecosystem, which is obviously something that you can truly deliver. Yeah. So it's not marketing. It's actually
real. So I can bring in any devices on my network.
Indeed.
I can manage, configure them, get alerts built on that single plane from basically my whole network.
Absolutely. I think the easiest way to think about it from a technical point of view, we have the SIEM, very mature, very well known. We have SOAR, which is relatively new but quite mature. The fact that this is now something well known. The Blockapt platform combines your SIEM and your SOAR onto one system.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, the key here for us is that when we talk about management and integration, it's really the ability to command and control, which you don't really get from a SOAR, because SOAR, yes, there is APIs, there is plugin, but the ability to manage this ecosystem is not really what a SOAR system does. So I would say SIEM, SOAR, plus, simply because the fact that we can now go into the command and control. Again, all of that agentless. You don't have to deploy any type of agents within your environment, but also you don't have to essentially disrupt that ecosystem, because obviously we're agentless. So there's no agents deployed on the endpoint.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I think it makes life a lot easier in terms of the integration. So hence we're now obviously building more and more vendors, more and more integration, and that's essentially how we're growing our own ecosystem.
Yeah. And I guess because you can work on API, you can digest or ingest any current devices or technology they have on the network. So if they already have a SIEM, that doesn't matter. You could still take those records into.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is quite crucial, right? Because your traditional SOAR system really relies on your SIEM. So if you already have your SIEM, absolutely, let's keep it. Let's plug that in terms of integration. However, if you don't already have a SIEM, then the Blockapt platform has a native SIEM built in for which you can use out of the box. But ultimately, This is really about leveraging your environment. So if you already made your investment onto your existing SIEM, the question then becomes, how do you make the best of out of that investment?
Yeah.
Hence, yes, it's not really about reinventing the wheel, in that sense, but
consolidation is a big thing out there. The fact you can make use of tools that they've already got, and actually give them more visibility, but using their existing infrastructure is fantastic.
Indeed, I think again, I come from a very much hands-on, background as an engineer. So it is true that within the cyber network and security space, we're not short of vendors, right? If you're talking about 5,000 plus, I think the last count in terms of technology. So there are a lot of fantastic tools. Again, I'm the user of those tools myself. I don't want to throw names. But if you go from EDR to firewall to next gen, zero trust net, I can go on and on. But it comes a point where we need to be able to consolidate, all of those fantastic tools, because it's been more or less best of breed.
Yeah.
More tools being thrown, on the network to address specific type of challenges. But our approach is slightly different. So our system is built from scratch, with really the mission to consolidate and to bring together that entire ecosystem. So it kind of gives us a bit of an edge because the fabric, was actually built right from the get-go with the idea of truly giving you that, centralized, management system, across your entire, network and security ecosystem.
And you're embracing channel. I've spoke to some of your colleagues, and you've come to work for distribution now, cyber distribution, and we're going to take you out to the channel, the partners. What should the partners be looking for? What you've mentioned SOAR and SIEM, but if I'm a partner watching this, what should I be looking for as buzzwords for my customer pain points that you could help me alleviate?
Yeah, I think there's two ways you can look at it. So there is the now, so if you don't already have a SIEM in terms of visibility monitoring, obviously that's kind of more or less legacy and mature path. So, in a sense of trying to make sense of all of these tools, in terms of integration. But I'm thinking long term, right? So you have to think a few steps ahead, especially with the advance of AI, where threats are becoming a lot more automated and coordinated. The question really becomes the time to respond. And being able to do that manually is not really scalable, right? And also is not practical, and it's a bit unrealistic. So we're really going into an age where machines will be fighting machines. The question then becomes, do you have the right investment, the right infrastructure to be able to then, start thinking about future threats?
Yeah.
And to be able to do that, really, it's not just technology, but you need to be able to bring all of those building blocks. Again, coming back to first, can I integrate my ecosystem in a smart way? Do I know what's happening across the board? But more importantly, do I then have the ability to take action in terms of automation or orchestration? So again, it comes back to that, deep integration, single pane of glass. But this is really where the modules, the tools are now really working as one. So that's essentially our approach in the way that we try to educate the channel and also to empower the channel to say, look, we have a duty to essentially let our partners and also the end customers see what's coming ahead, but also to be able to provide them a solution that is proven that actually, works.
Yeah. And you mentioned machine against machine. Obviously, with the advancement of machines, we suddenly head towards, ridiculous speeds and power and quantum. And you guys have quantum computing as, part of your remit. So can you expand on that? Because, you've covered AI and quantum. Right now, the phone's going to be off the hook because every partner I speak to, tell me about AI and quantum. So,
indeed. So from a communication point of view, I think the threat of quantums when it comes to, computer networks, I think is well documented. Here we're really talking about IPSec, SSL, right? So any 2 points, point-to-point communication or one-to-many or many-to-one, how do we make sure that communication is for data at rest and also data in motion, essentially protected? So the traditional way has been to use these IPSec VPNs, but now we really come into the age of quantum, whereby those symmetric keys, the symmetric communication can essentially be broken by the power of quantum computers. So within the platform, we also have a module that allows you to essentially protect, those point-to-point communication using, quantum secure, algorithm. Again, these are protocols that are NIST, approved, and obviously it's been tested by the US military to essentially attest to the strength, obviously, of the communication against quantum computers. So really, the platform is the monitoring side, the management side in terms of how we bring things together, but also the communication protection, because all of those things really are linked, in a sense of if I'm able to communicate the command and control information to these critical system, you want to make sure that those communications are secure. Protected.
Nice.
So hence the quantum module within the platform.
Fantastic. I'll be honest. As a partner, how would I? Is there the option to proof of concept this to any customers I've got? What would a proof of concept look like?
Yeah, so the way we're engaging with partners, today, once you understand obviously the requirements, because there are different maturity levels, right? So we just have to be clear about that, in the sense that depending on where your enterprise, your organization is, you might be at the monitoring stage. There are people out there who are still trying to figure out, what does monitoring look like. We talked about single pane of glass. That might be one stage. But once you actually have that in place, in terms of knowing what's happening around your environment, you have the what we call consolidated dashboards, then you might want to say, great, I now know what's happening, but do I then have the ability to do something about it, right? Again, coming back to the traditional challenge of security, too many alerts, kicking off all over the place, and eventually start to ignore them. So stage one, consolidating your alerts, knowing what's happening. Then the stage two is essentially being able to take these actions, right? And this is where the maturity level. So, we can start you in terms of POC or your requirements, visibility, and then we can move on to the ability to then use that visibility, use those events to essentially then take real action. So it's really a spectrum, right? So when we enter into a POC, depending on the requirements, we have to be able to obviously, guide the partner and also guide the end client in terms of what we're trying to achieve. So it's usually the other way around, where consulting led, type of approach. We understand your requirements, your level of maturity, and now we can then help you to essentially achieve those specific requirements.
But it sounds very much like you could go in at either end of the spectrum. You could go to a fully loaded enterprise that has everything and integrate effectively, or you could go in at the very base level and grow with that customer if they just want to start off on the single option right now.
Indeed, and this is where the comprehensive nature of the platform comes into play. For example, we are talking to I won't name the names, but large banks and also a defense, where they really have the maturity to be able to deal with the entire spectrum. So from that point of view, then it really becomes, from layer 1, all the way to layer 7. First, we integrate, all of those tools, right? Again, giving us that center management. Now we can start to build what we call workflows and playbooks, right? Depending on what they want to do. But then you really have the end-to-end ability. We're now really going into a fully autonomous type of self-defending system, simply because, I've got the ability to monitor visibility. I've got the ability to integrate these APIs that we are building more and more, but now I've got the ability to automate with the ability to use playbooks. So again, this is really the full spectrum in terms of what you can do truly with the system that we have today.
And do you see that, we discussed 2024 trends. If I look at the future, do you see that as where customers will go, fully autonomous system?
I think from a practical point of view, if I picture this, couple of years ahead, given how fast, AI is going, I think it's fair to say that today, the speed at which, these AI bots could detect, flaws and vulnerabilities, and the speed at which they can exploit them, is really not, I don't think it's practical to think human beings will be able to keep up. So yes, this is something that enterprise obviously needs to start thinking about in terms of, on the other side, you have machines. So therefore, you need to have the ability on the other side to also have machines. So again, when I say machines, I'm really talking about, the ability to use things like automated workflows, automated playbooks, to be able to respond to those type of attack in real time without any type of human intervention. I think this is coming faster than predicted.
Yeah,
indeed.
And I spoke to a couple of other people earlier about forthcoming regulations. How do you fit into the forthcoming regulations for the next year, DORA? Is your technology relevant for a lot of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the CX suite point of view, absolutely relevant in the sense that regulation also means visibility, right? Which is still a challenge when I talk about consolidated dashboards within the entire environment. That's still a challenge. So regulation means visibility, which then can address the usual type of framework, SOX, compliance, PCI DSS. And also there is a dimension of action in terms of those regulations. So the platform can absolutely help kind of block those gaps. But again, the approach is from a comprehensive point of view, i.e. end-to-end, where I now have a single place where I can really know in real time the state of my environment and being able to obviously to respond to those type of compliance requirements, not in retro, but more or less in a reactive and also proactive way because of the information that we're collecting across the environment.
Fantastic. Well, all sounds amazing. Sounds very exciting. We're enthralled to have you as part of CyberFusion.
Thank you.
Looking forward to taking you out to our partners and really appreciate your time today, Marco. It's been a pleasure sitting and talking to you, and hopefully we'll do more of these over the next 12 months and look to drill down into the platform a bit further. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Steve.